Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Another one.
Notice a strange...
The link to the original video, guys. Hi, how are you? Top of the description. Below that, link to the Discord. Would love to have you. PBS Eons, great. Preemptive like. Did a tsunami swallow part of Europe? I swear I saw a video like 3 years ago on this. Doggerland. Norway. Mudslide. Tsunami. Those are the words that come to mind. Let's learn.
In 1931, a fisherman named Pilgrim Lockwood was sailing 40 kilometers off the eastern coast of England when he noticed a strange object in the nets that his crew had been dragging across the sea floor. It was a harpoon.
Guys, come on. Just come on. I was fixing.
In 1931, a fisherman named Pilgrim Lockwood was sailing 40 kilometers off the eastern coast of England when he noticed a strange object in the nets that his crew had been dragging across the sea floor. It was a harpoon carved from the antler of a deer, measuring over 20 centimeters long with a sharp, barbed edge. Lockwood's discovery confirmed that this area of the North Sea, which for years had been hypothesized to be a lost, submerged land, was once a place that ancient people had called home. And other discoveries since then have revealed that those people weren't just Homo sapiens.
Couldn't it have just floated? I'm not disputing the video, but just okay. But aren't there also footprints of dinosaurs too? So how does that happen? They have to, a dinosaur or a human has to step on like a muddy or clay like surface, make an imprint, and then that environment doesn't get any rain for a while and then it solidifies. How does this happen?
Various points discoveries since then have revealed that those people weren't just Homo sapiens. At various points in deep time, Neanderthals and maybe even older human relatives roamed this long-lost world. And for a pretty good reason, too. This area, which connected Britain to the rest of Europe, was once one of the continent's richest hunting grounds. A dynamic and at times lush environment that supported a wealth of species and natural resources. To ancient humans, it was something of an ecological paradise. So what happened to this piece of prime prehistoric real estate? How did it end up beneath the waves, leading to a great British break-off from the European mainland? While a massive mega tsunami might have drowned it for good, the underlying reason that it now lies under the sea may have actually been the same thing that made it so great in the first place.
Guys, so this means that right here, the North Sea is not a very deep sea, obviously, and what is now the lowlands used to be the midlands.
Tales of mysterious sunken worlds are a popular trope in stories about our past, but in most cases, they're myths with problematic histories and they have no actual archaeological basis. But in the area that's now the North Sea between Britain and the rest of Europe, one sunken world really did exist. Scientists call it Doggerland, after a type of Dutch fishing boat called a dogger that sailed across parts of the area in the 17th century. I myself would prefer Doggoland, and it's just like a land full of puppies, and you take a vacation in there and just boop the snoots.
Great minds think alike.
First clues suggesting that this region was a former landmass came in the early 20th century. Locals had long noticed that when tides were especially low, some coastal areas of the North Sea revealed evidence of sunken forests that were clearly extremely old. But it took Lockwood's discovery of that antler harpoon to prove that Doggerland wasn't just a submerged piece of land, but also a place that had once been occupied by ancient people.
Yeah, this being such a key to like the hypothesis or theory, or this being such a key to the fact that this used to be a land, seems like a strange one to put so much, because couldn't it just float?
And this has been confirmed over and over again in the years.
I'm not saying this didn't happen.
Had once been occupied by ancient people. And this has been confirmed over and over again in the years since, thanks to a variety of tools, pottery fragments, and even human remains that have been dredged up from the seafloor or found washed up on the coasts. The oldest of these remains is a skull fragment of a young male Neanderthal, referred to by researchers as Krine, which dates to somewhere between 50,000 and 70,000 years ago. And we've even found Neanderthal-type artifacts left behind by Krine's people, including a sophisticated flint tool bound together using tar from a birch tree. Back when Neanderthals roamed this area in the depths of the Ice Ages, Doggerland was mostly frigid tundra. It was part of what's called the Mammoth Steppe that stretched the length of the continent. And in fact, as far as we can tell, Doggerland seems to be right at the northernmost edge of the Neanderthals' range during their heyday in the Pleistocene epoch. They lived alongside many cold-adapted species characteristic of this time period. We found the remains of mammoths, woolly rhinos, cave lions, and hyenas, just to name a few. But sediment cores collected from the seafloor have shown that as the ice ages came to an end around 10,000 to 15,000 years ago, Doggerland changed dramatically. The cores contain deposits of peat, organic material that can only form in swampy marshland. This revealed that, as the northern glaciers retreated and the region warmed, the tundra was replaced by woodlands, swamps, mudflats, and plentiful fresh water in the form of lakes and river systems. And while the Neanderthals were long gone by this time, by about 13,000 years ago, a wave of Homo sapiens hunter-gatherers migrated into the area. They were probably following herds of elk, deer, wild boar, aurochs, and bison into the emerging greener and wetter landscape. Doggerland is now considered to have been one of the most resource-rich and human-friendly spots on the entire European continent during this time, thanks to its concentration of prey and freshwater resources. But understanding the complex lives and cultures of the people who lived in Doggerland is a real challenge. It's a difficult task at any archaeological site, let alone one that is now almost entirely submerged. Still, researchers, beachcombers, and lucky people fishing have found over 1,000 artifacts so far that date to this period of human occupation, known as the Mesolithic or Middle Stone Age. Many of them are hunting weapons, often carved from the bones of prey animals, primarily deer, like Lockwood's harpoon. But some have even been fashioned from the bones of other humans. And isotopic data has been gathered from the remains of these Mesolithic people, which helps us figure out what kinds of food they were eating. See, different foods contain different chemical markers, and seeing as you are literally what you eat, those markers...
Wait, so that harpoon was made of bone, not antler? Why do I assume antlers would float, but bones wouldn't? Okay, if that's the case, then me saying it could have just floated there was stupid.
Different foods contain different chemical markers, and seeing as you are literally what you eat, those markers persist in the remains of people even thousands of years after their death. And the data suggests that they had a mixed surf and turf diet, including mostly freshwater fish and some terrestrial animals. Good eating. While there's a lot that we'll never know about how they lived, they were clearly adept at making the most of the resources that Doggerland had to offer. But, spoiler alert, it would not last. By about 8,000 years ago, Doggerland was gone. An entire landmass with an area comparable in size to Britain was lost beneath the waves. But how and why? Well, what had made this low-lying area so idyllic was its abundance of water in the form of rivers and lakes that supported a lush ecosystem. But as temperatures continued to rise and ice sheets continued to melt, water became too abundant. And this happened gradually at first, then all at once. See, it wasn't just a simple case of rising sea levels and widening river systems that eventually swallowed Doggerland whole. That was only part of the story. Because in the 1980s, scientists discovered evidence of a massive mega tsunami that hit the North Sea about 8,000 years ago. This huge wave was generated by an undersea landslide off the coast of Norway called the Storegga event that dumped an enormous amount of debris into the ocean, causing a huge wave to ripple across the North Sea. But did this catastrophe drown Doggerland and its people in a sudden, practically overnight apocalypse? Well, to answer that question, it's critical to know how much of the landmass was still above sea level when the tsunami hit.
Right.
And that has been a subject of much debate over the last few decades. I mean, I can't go to a cocktail party where people aren't talking about.
I mean, how can a tsunami lower the sea level of land that's already existing? Even if there's an enormous, giant tsunami formed, like they said, and it went over, if you're still a foot or two above sea level, then it's going to gradually move out back into the ocean, isn't it?
Doggerland's sea level orientation. Those are the friends I hang out with, though. But recent studies have suggested that Doggerland had already changed quite a bit in the time leading up to the tsunami. Being an especially low-lying area, rising sea levels triggered by glacial melt had already inundated much of the region. By the time the tsunami hit, it's now thought that only a few parts of Doggerland were left. One of them was an island called Dogger Island, which would have still been high and dry at the time of the Storegga landslide, and part of it may have survived the event for a few centuries afterwards.
My camera just took a tumble, guys, sorry.
Too. So as powerful as the tsunami no doubt was, it was probably an additional dramatic hit to a place already doomed by larger scale, gradual planetary changes that eventually sealed its fate. Now, while all of this scientific exploration of Doggerland makes it the best known sunken landmass occupied by humans, it isn't the only prehistoric real estate we've lost to the ocean. During the Ice Ages, there were many areas of the continental shelves that were exposed around the world. Some of those areas would have been important sites for humans. Take, for example, Atlit Yam off the coast of Israel, or even areas off the coast of Southern California, which have been the subject of underwater surveying over the last couple of years. And regardless of the way Doggerland finally sank under the waves, it shows us that some undersea worlds really do exist. It reminds us that the history of life on this planet has always been shaped by constant environmental change that can even create and destroy the places we call home. While human civilization has changed a lot since Doggerland's demise, we are entering a new period of sea level rise, this time caused by us. And Doggerland's story is a reminder that we are still vulnerable to the same forces as our Mesolithic counterparts. In a few thousand years, who knows which now familiar locations will be considered mysterious, long-lost worlds too.
Cool. Cool. Awesome. Yes. Can't wait. Hope you guys are all doing well. I'd appreciate any comments on the video. As much as I want to I wonder what other areas simulation. All right. I hope you guys can leave some comments. I'd love to see them. Any questions I might have had, would appreciate any answers. And I'll see you guys next time. All right. Bye, guys. I gotta pee.